Battle van, key on my location. Go, escape tactic, code 81452.
I don't think I ever told you this, but do you remember that CW show, Legends of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
You didn't watch that at all, did you?
I watched 3 or 4 episodes.
You didn't see it to the end, though.
No.
Well, I don't want to spoil too much, even though I don't think you're planning on seeing it, but I want to get your thoughts about something that happened in the finale. One of the more likable members of the crew had one of those typical moments of, self-sacrifice, and I just want to get your thoughts on what happened. Spoiler free, by the way, but I just want to explain how they died. They blew up in one of those kind of scenes where I'm going to blow myself up to blow up the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right before they blew up, they looked at the bad guys and said the line, "There are no strings on me." And I just wanted to get your impression of that. What do you think of something like that?
That was really the line.
That was seriously the line. I'm dead serious. I'm not even making that up. What do you think of that?
That is...
Isn't it great? It's the greatest, right?
That is... I can't even put into words what a fucking ripoff that is.
I know, and I'm surprised that it took this long for me to bring it up to you. I thought I had talked to you about it earlier, but I realized earlier today that I didn't. So yeah, unfortunately, Warner Brothers and by association DC, they put out a lot of bullshit, just a lot of fucking shit, and it seems more as of recent. But not today, my friend. I'm Ancient Angelus, and I'm here with Master Yoma. And we're here talking about my favorite comic book movie of all time, Suicide Squad. I know it was my favorite. It was my personal favorite above all else. And I'm probably the only person on the internet who thinks that.
This
do you
isn't...
think of Suicide Squad?
You're
no,
being
this
100%
isn't facetious.
serious.
I'm being 100% serious. I fucking loved this movie. I can't say it loud enough. I will stand on the highest mountain and scream at all the people around me. I fucking love this movie. It is awesome. And you see what I did with the Legends of Tomorrow? I kind of switched on you, made you think I was going to talk about shit. No, this is not shit. I fucking love this movie. I had such a blast seeing this movie. And not it was fun.
I absolutely loved it. I loved it. It was such a great movie.
It was a fair representation of the Suicide Squad. It wasn't, no movie's flawless. It had some things that I think it could have benefited better from. But from a standpoint of someone who's a huge fan of the comic books, I read... Actually, I think my love of Suicide Squad started when I saw the Justice League episode Task Force X. You know, the one where they actually infiltrated the Justice League headquarters, the Watchtower.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of I really like that concept. You know, they had the Clock King, they had Plastique, they had Deadshot, they had Boomerang. And that's when I actually looked up a lot of the old comics. And I didn't read the older ones, like from the 60s and 70s. I didn't really pick up those, but they had a more modernization, I want to say in the early 90s. And I started reading some of those. And on and off, I read a couple issues. It was pretty good. I got way into it when Harley Quinn joined in the New 52. I thought it was amazing. I read all the issues of the New 52. And this movie is a fair representation. I don't know how else to say it. It was a lot of fun, and I really am shocked that people are not receiving it this warmly as I have. But I think there are reasons for that, and I'll get into those later. But for now, let's kind of discuss what the movie is and what people should go into it thinking. It's not Batman vs Superman, right?
Oh God, no.
It's a side story. Yeah, God no, God knows right. If you heard our 2 hour podcast rattling off the problems with that movie, you'll understand. Uh, it's a side story, ostensibly. It's a group of supervillains who it's true. Unlike Batman vs. Well, I should say like Batman vs Superman, they weren't prior. They weren't introduced prior into the story, into any movie. They just kind of they're in this movie, and this is their start. Sort of like they did for Harley Quinn in the New 52. That was her start in the New 52 amended universe. They threw her into Suicide Squad, changed her backstory a little bit, and we had Harley Quinn. In this movie, you have Harley Quinn, Joker's ex-psychiatrist girlfriend, who he convinces to help him break out of Arkham. Typical Harley Quinn story. They went with the New 52 storyline, which was fine. She takes the chemical bath too. Margot Robbie did an amazing job as Harley Quinn. My only complaint, and you remember me making comments during the when we were seeing the trailers about how I was concerned that she didn't have the accent.
Yeah.
And well, I was wrong. She kind of had the accent, but she didn't lay it on thick, which I thought was a good choice, considering Margot Robbie is an Aussie, and it's hard enough doing an American accent, let alone a specialty American accent.
Yeah.
So she decided to kind of put a light accent on, but there were certain lines where you could tell that she kind of broke the accent a little. It should have had the accent, but it didn't. But it wasn't really that noticeable because she had put on a light version of it, which I thought was a really good choice on her part. Also, there was that scene with Amanda Waller when she's talking with the government official over dinner, who the government official, by the way, played Rick Flag in Smallville. Kind of another little Easter egg. But an Easter egg for Harley is when she's looking at Harley's file, sort of a blink and you miss it moment. It says in her file that she was actually an accomplice to Robin's murder.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he kind of goes through the files really quickly, and you kind of have to really look. But before we move on, what did you think of Harley in the movie?
I thought she was trying to give some essence of the Harley from the cartoon shows, and you could hear it a little bit in her voice during some of the dialogue. I had no problem with her. I thought she did a great job overall. Sometimes I don't know if it's necessarily her fault, but the dialogue felt a little too much. I don't know. I'm trying to know how to explain it.
Corny? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of to be expected with Harley because she's always kind of the silly one of the group. She'll say the corny stuff if she thinks it'll get her a laugh. It didn't really bother me. It did kind of fit her character, I thought. They did have Harley Quinn in her classic outfit for a shot.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool. But I think that's also why the movie got some hate, too, because I love Harley Quinn. You know I love Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
There are Harley Quinn purists out there who absolutely hate starting with the New 52 and then being expanded upon in the Arkham series. They hate Harley outside the Jester outfit. They call her Slutty Quinn and Harley Quinn, and they don't understand. And we even got a glimpse of it in the movie. I'm surprised they put her in it at all, but we got a glimpse of her wearing the Jester outfit for like a split second. And if she had done the whole movie in that outfit, it would have looked absolutely ridiculous. People would have been laughing at her, but laughing at her for the wrong reasons. And that's why I felt like they had switched her outfit in New 52 to kind of make it seem a little more real. I mean, the point of her wearing the Jester outfit was to draw attention. not to be laughed at. And if in a real life scenario, dressing sexy draws the attention, but if she wore the Jester outfit, she'd be laughed at. So I'll take Harley any way I can get her, pretty much. And I think some people just need to get over that. But let's move on. Okay, Deadshot. Expert marksman, never misses.
He's the bullseye of DC.
Basically. Played by Will Smith, which was a huge sticking point for a lot of people, myself included. But I'll be the first to admit, I was wrong. I was dead wrong about him. I thought he was a really good Deadshot. And you'll never hear me say this about Will Smith probably ever again, but I felt he made that character his own. And there was a scene in the movie that really kind of endeared me to his character without spoiling what it was. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's that scene in the alley. It actually made me give a crap about him. And I honestly didn't think I was going to give a crap.
I knew they were going to do a scene like that somewhere in the movie. I knew it was going to happen because that was going to be the way that they brought Deadshot onto the team.
I think it's not really spoilery to say because in every interpretation of Deadshot, although Will Smith, this is clearly a different interpretation, his motivation has always been his daughter. In the comics, in all the Suicide Squad stuff that ever happens, it's always his daughter.
Even in the CW Arrow, it was about his daughter.
And that's basically what the scene was about. I don't think it's really that spoilery to say, but there was a conversation that he actually has with his daughter where she flat out tells him, "You kill people, Daddy." And he lies to her face and says, "No, I don't." And in that moment, you know he's lying as an audience member. You know who he is and what he does. But if you saw that scene out of context and the look in his face, you would almost believe him. Like he's trying desperately to believe the lie. And it was such a moving scene to me. And I thought it was really great. And it wasn't plagued with Will Smithisms. I mean, don't worry. He didn't welcome people to Earth. He didn't have any Fresh Prince of Bel-Air moments where he's just like, damn! It's just a man with his daughter.
Yeah.
He was downplayed enough where when there were moments of almost Will Smith-esque jokes involved, it was downplayed enough where I felt it worked for the character and it didn't seem out of sorts. But if you're looking for a more traditional view of Deadshot, like from the comics, I would highly recommend the movie Batman Assault on Arkham, which, in my opinion, although I love this movie, it is a superior Suicide Squad story. And it has more of a classic Deadshot in it. But I thought Will Smith did a good job all in all. Okay, Killer Croc, which was another sticking point for me, as you know.
I liked the way he looked. I did not like the size of him.
Yeah. First off, right away, my sticking point initially is the fact that he's just there for name recognition. He's there taking the place of King Shark, who really should have been there. But all in all, I mean, they are basically the same character, I suppose, as replacements go. But yeah, I was expecting more of an Arkham Asylum-sized Killer Croc, and what we ended up getting was an Arkham Origins Killer Croc, where he's just a weird-looking dude man. I mean, he might have been slightly bigger than a normal man, but he just he looked too lanky. Like, I just thought he was kind of a limp Killer Croc.
Once he took off his jacket, you saw it. And it was disappointing.
With Killer Croc, Waylon Jones, he was a carnival sideshow attraction who decided that robbing banks was a lot more profitable of a venture. And that's basically his backstory. He planted roots in Gotham and became a Batman villain. But moving on from Killer Croc, we have Enchantress, who, pound for pound, is probably the most powerful member of the Suicide Squad. She's an ancient witch who has lasted for eons. She can teleport. She can have people see illusions, basically whatever she wants. Sort of like Scarlet Witch from Avengers 2. And I believe she's part of one of the old school Suicide Squad series of comics. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the plot of this movie is actually taken from one of the ones she was involved in. In fact, one of the ones where she was a focal point. And I think the actress playing her was cute. I believe she was a model before she acted in this movie, and I think she did a good job considering. Dr. June Moon, archaeologist, goes on a venture by herself in what looks like a Mayan ruin. She ends up falling into, again, what looks like a burial chamber. And at the behest of clearly something magical, because that's always the thing when it's a magical storyline and you hear whispers in the background, that usually is implying that someone's telling her to do something in her head. She ends up breaking a sacred artifact, releasing the essence of an ancient witch, which is Enchantress. And she is possessed by that. And she can call upon Enchantress at will, or Enchantress can take control, sort of like the Incredible Hulk in that respect. The way Bruce Banner has that kind of limited control.
I mean, I don't know. The other characters I at least knew something about. I had no idea who she was. I mean, the powers were, it seemed a little too much. It felt like she could have actually gotten away. She could have freed herself with the powers that she has. She could have freed herself a long time ago and never been subject to someone's beck and will like she is in the movie.
Yeah. Well, Amanda Waller found, as soon as she found out about her, she had that shit on lockdown. I mean, she pretty much said as soon as we found out, we raided the tomb and got all the artifacts. And she basically found a way to leash Enchantress without actually having to put a bomb in her neck, unlike the others in the Suicide Squad. So, moving on from Enchantress.
She did look good. I mean, she did look cool. I'll give her that.
She looked like she could fuck some stuff up. Okay, so Captain Boomerang, whose gimmick is a bunch of trick boomerangs, from judging from his name, no surprise. He's primarily a Flash villain who's located in Central City, one of Captain Cold's rogues, that group of villains, and his thing is he does heists, he robs banks, small time stuff. He's so perfectly depicted by Jai Courtney in this. I don't want to call him a coward, but you get the impression that the first chance he gets, he's going to try to cut and run. That's just who he is. That's who he be. While the others have, sort of resigned themselves to their fate of being on a leash. He's just a consummate asshole. And oftentimes he comes head to head with Deadshot, who is usually the team leader, especially in the New 52, where they didn't really use Rick Flag. So he's constantly challenging the authority of the group. They made him look grimy, and that's a good thing, because it's a little more tonally consistent with his character's mentality than the weird blue deckhand outfit that he usually wears. And for some reason, they gave him the quirk of kind of being a brony in this. Like, he's obsessed with this stuffed pink unicorn. I thought that was kind of a funny little touch. But what did you think of Captain Boomerang?
I fucking loved Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. Every scene he was in was guaranteed to be fucking hilarious. I didn't care for the pink unicorn thing. That was one of the things that I have a gripe with, because it just seemed a little too Deadpoolish.
Yeah, I could see
right
that.
after Deadpool with his unicorn, he's gonna have a pink unicorn. It seemed a little too copycat-y for me, but everything,
Fair enough.
he was so great in this movie. I loved him. I love Jai Courtney. He's a great actor, and I was so excited from the very get go to see him as Captain Boomerang.
Okay, moving on from Captain Boomerang, then we have Diablo, or you'll probably hear me refer to him as Santana a lot during this whole thing, because that's what they tend to call him in the comics. They tend to refer to him by his actual name. In fact, when I heard Diablo was in this, I got a little confused because I had to think for a minute, who the hell is Diablo? And then I realized, oh, they're talking about Santana. He is a street hood, a thug, who basically got critically injured at one point in his thug life, ended up in the hospital, and was saved by a curse. He was cursed by being possessed by a minor demon who gave him the ability of pyrokinesis. Now, one of the things I have to admit about the movie, and the movie, you have to understand, the movie's like 2 hours plus long. The only major flaw that I find in this movie is that they don't give enough backstory to certain characters. Some of them feel like they just sort of show up with no backstory. And Diablo has a little bit, but they don't even touch upon how he got the powers or anything. And I really hope, fingers crossed, they do an extended cut of this where they do throw in that information, because his backstory is really interesting. Basically, that minor demon he's possessed by is actually a spirit of vengeance, and he's basically like the Ghost Rider of the DC universe. He can see the sins of others as well as those of his own, and you can kind of see that in his performance in the movie, where he's very reluctant to even use his powers. He doesn't feel like he has the right to kill people. And in the comic books, he finds solace in faith. And although he's willing to help Waller in his crusade for redemption, he's always been against her methods of killing. And he's looking more for like justice, where Waller's not giving him justice. She's forcing him to do Black Ops missions. And that's where his dynamic comes from. Now, in this movie, they kind of chose to have him not even look for redemption. He just kind of wanted to be left alone in his cell. And I thought it was a really nice interpretation of a different path of a similar character to try to take. What did you think of Santana, a.k.a. El Diablo?
He's one also I didn't know a lot about going in. So I was kind of like, okay, I got to wait and see what this dude's going to be about, what he's going to look like and all that. And I was blown away. I thought he was such a great character. I was just completely in shock at how awesome he ended up becoming.
He was definitely one of the more sympathetic people in the cast, which is hard for a cast of villains. Then we have Slipknot, and he got like no flashbacks, and I'll be honest, he's the one out of everyone there that I probably knew the least about going in. The only thing I knew about him is he has a scene with Captain Boomerang in the movie that was ripped directly from the comics, and beyond that, I could tell you what he can do, but I don't really know much of how he got to where he was. So I really can't give you too much backstory on him, and the movie kind of didn't either. I was really hoping it would. He has the ability to... He can basically scale anything. Like, he has a series of... Kind of like Captain Boomerang has his trick boomerangs, he has a series of grappling hooks and like quick shot weapons that would allow him to easily scale a building in seconds. And I could see him being of real use in a infiltration mission, which the Suicide Squad does a lot. But in this particular movie, it really wasn't infiltration. He kind of got nothing in this movie, and I think that was a shame. I think he should have gotten a little more, and I think if they did an extended cut, they should add something of his background. All right, let's move on to handlers now. And since I don't want this to be like a 2-hour podcast again, I think we can skip Colonel Flag. He was just kind of generic military guy, keeps an eye on the squad. He has the same phone app, apparently, that Waller has where he can kill them if they try to escape, basically pop their heads because they have nanites injected into them. And so let's move on to Katana, who I was confused and thought was Lady Shiva when they first announced Suicide Squad movie. But apparently, no, it's Katana, who's more of a hero and treated as such by the fact that she's not injected with the explosives in her neck. She's just basically a mercenary that they hired to help Rick Flag out in keeping the other supervillains in line. She doesn't actually speak English. She only speaks in Japanese, although she understands English because she understands everything Flag and Harley seem to tell her. She's a skilled swordswoman whose thing is her sword traps the souls of the people she kills with it. And her husband's brother, in a fit of jealous rage over being in love with Katana, used the sword to kill her husband. So now her husband's soul is trapped in the sword. And in the comics, and you see it a little in the movie, she does talk to the sword. But unfortunately, none of that stuff is shown until well into the movie. And she just sort of shows up, kind of like Slipknot. No real background other than a couple of words from Rick Flag. I mean, that's it. He just kind of explains her a little bit, but she kind of really gets nothing also. What did you think of her?
She was a badass when, I mean, she didn't talk a lot, well, because, I mean, it was all Japanese anyways. But
Yeah.
she did have that essence of, like, she could have fucking killed everyone there within a heartbeat.
Yeah.
She was there and she could have fucking destroyed everyone if she was told to.
Yeah, and that was pretty much her role in the movie. She was there to kind of be a hero amongst villains. They really didn't use her character a whole lot, but when they did, it was cool. But yeah, let's move on to Viola Davis, who it plays Amanda Waller in this. And for those that don't know who Amanda Waller is, she's basically a government agent who decided that after the events of, well, Superman and in the comic books, all these metahumans that are causing problems, that it's in the government's best interest to get this ragtag bunch of criminals that are locked away, these metahumans, and force them to fight for the government, basically, doing black ops missions and what have you. So she gets all these people that we talked about together, injects nanites into their necks, and keeps them on a leash. Basically says, you try to escape, boom, your head's coming off. You die in the mission, you die in the mission. Some of these people have multiple life sentences. So the only other alternative is either death row, or to live out the rest of their days stuck in a jail cell, or if they survive a suicide mission, they get time knocked off their sentences. So a lot of them kind of go, oh, I'm killing people for the government and getting time off? Why not? You know?
Yeah.
For those who've seen the trailers, she even pitches it under the guise of the events of Superman 2 almost, where she suggests that what if Superman comes down and rips the roof off the White House? What do we do then? And she basically says, well, now we will have a group of metahumans to fight for us to ensure that never happens. I think Viola Davis did a good job playing Amanda Waller, aka The Wall, because nothing gets past the wall. She was just as tough as she was in the books, just about. Very ruthless. She's definitely not afraid to look a villain straight in the face with a straight face on and say, do your worst. That's Amanda Waller. The only real unfortunate thing about Amanda Waller is she has this real predilection to keep secrets, almost to the detriment of the squad, and usually gets them in trouble, like 9 times out of 10. And this movie's no different. And if you read the comics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Uh, what did you think of Viola Davis?
I thought she did a great job. An evil Nick Fury.
Pretty
If Nick
much.
Fury went for
But like,
fucking villains instead of heroes.
yeah, yeah, and the idea behind Amanda Waller is she always felt that this was a lot preferable to the Justice League because although these people are bad, the idea of them fighting for their lives makes the fight that much more personal for them. And I think that was her whole deal because I mean you bring Thor down to fight Doctor Doom or something, and Thor's just like, well, you know, we lose. I could just go back to Asgard. Who cares? That kind of deal. But when you know, Deadshot and Harley Quinn realize that, you know, we need to do what we need to do or else we're going to die, they're going to shape up and they're going to do it. All right, I think we talked in general about the movie enough. This is the end of the spoiler-free section, so from here on out, there's going to be spoilers. But before we transition into that, I just want to give a little advice. Do not go into this movie expecting a Justice League movie. Do not go into this movie expecting a Batman movie. Go see this movie. It is a really fun side story, but that is all it's meant to be. Don't believe the bad reviews. This fucking movie's amazing. It's fun. It's what Guardians of the Galaxy was to Marvel. The only difference is I like this better. I'm sure you like Guardians better. You know, he's a Marvel, I'm a DC kind of thing. Guardians was lighthearted and fun. You kind of expected everyone to be okay. This movie, you know not everyone's coming back. And that's what I really appreciate about Suicide Squad. And if you're looking for that, like a darker version, then that's what this movie is.
Don't believe the fucking reviews. I never go to a movie based off the reviews. I go on my own and I make my own decision, my own opinion, and it's not as bad as everyone's fucking making it out to be. It is a very good movie.
Okay, so spoilers from here on out. If you want to go see the movie, see the movie. I'm going to put the time in the description, so you could probably just click on that when you're done and come back. Now that we're in the spoiler section, what were some highlights from the movie? Like some scenes that you like? Because I could think of quite a few that I liked, obviously.
It's the scenes from the comics being brought to real life, like the one with Joker and Harley, where Harley's wearing the classic outfit. My wife at the time was wearing that fucking t-shirt, so it was very awesome to see.
Yeah, Harley and Joker, I noticed in this movie, had a lot of really just great imagery just done for them. Like the whole scene with the chemical bath, how that went. Like when Joker jumped in after her, and in the blue from her outfit and the red from his outfit sort of melted off and gave her her colors. It was just it was just such a nice looking visual that it made the scene. It almost made it seem like it popped out from a comic book, which I mean it technically did, but the whole thing with the colors, that's new. That kind of leads into another one of my favorite scenes, which was the scene in the car where Harley says one of my favorite lines when Batman's on top of the car and she's trying to blow his head off and she's saying, "Stupid bat, you're ruining date night." It's a little different than how she was captured in the comics. In the comics, she had murdered all of the prosecuting attorneys that put Joker away, and she was dancing with them in like a dance hall when Black Canary busts in and takes her in, and she takes note that Black Canary, she's never seen a look of sadness on a person's face like that before. It just I understand why they didn't put Black Canary in this, but it would have kind of been cool to see her do that same thing too. But what they did was really good as well. Speaking of which, what did you think of Joker, by the way?
Yeah, I was just looking at that and I realized we didn't even talk about Joker.
Yeah, I intentionally avoided that. He's not really a member of the Suicide Squad, and I didn't want people to get confused like they seem to be about the trailers. Really wanted to
I
avoid that.
loved the way Jared Leto portrayed him. He was generally
Yeah.
fucking scary. Like, I would rather deal with Heath Ledger's Joker than fucking Jared Leto. Like, on my seat, like, what is he gonna fucking do? Because you just had no idea
Yeah.
he was that gone that you had no idea what he was thinking or what he was about to do.
Yeah, his performance kind of made Heath Ledger's Joker seem a lot more reasonable by comparison. But that kind of leads to the next scene that a lot of people are confused about with the Joker, that I just kind of want to clear up. Common is in this movie, and he plays a thug named Monster T, who's trying to do a deal with the Joker. And as anyone who knows the Joker, they know that he doesn't exactly play nice with others. And the Joker, you could already tell, is very put off by his presence. I mean, you can tell in the dialogue. He's like, "What? Are you trying to sweet talk me?" But it wasn't until he made a comment about Harley being incredibly attractive that I had already pegged him for dead. That's the way I interpreted the scene. The very second he looked at Harley, he was dead. Because then Joker calls Harley over and says, "Well, fine, you want her, she's yours." And he's giving him the eye while she's on top of him going, "What, you don't find me attractive? Oh, come on." And he's just sitting there looking at the Joker going, "I don't want any beef, man. I don't want any beef." And at that point, he can't talk his way out of it. He just needed to get up and run. I mean, he was dead.
Yeah.
And it was a scary scene, to be honest. I mean, it was very unnerving, and I loved it. And to me, that cemented Leto's performance as the Joker. But the scene that I really, really like that involved Harley and Joker also was after Joker had strong-armed the guard at Belle Reve to give Harley the phone on the sly before she boarded the plane and got her gear. And he asks her, he goes, "So you gonna tell Jay I took care of you? You gonna tell him, right?" And she just laughs and says, "You are so screwed." And I remember in the theater, I think I laughed harder than she did in that scene because that was just such, like, I would have said that, and I thought that was just so funny.
By far, my favorite Captain Boomerang, and it's the scene where they're at the bar and Rick Flag comes in, smashes the fucking
I know
device that has the controls the bomb in their neck, and says, "You're all free."
Yeah.
Without a second thought, he's up and out the fucking door. Left everyone behind.
I love
Everyone's
that,
still
too.
sitting there talking and, wondering what's going to happen. He didn't give a shit. He was gone. He was out.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the only one that really could walk away, even before that, was Harley, because the Joker had already deactivated her stuff. But she doesn't want to be alone at that point, and you could tell that's why she's there. She wants the company of the others. Deadshot realizes the only way out of that to survive is to stick together. The others have this very noble understanding of if they separate, they're dead. And Harley just is doing it for her own emotional state. That's another thing, too. I do appreciate that she was psychoanalyzing the other members of the squad, considering she was a psychiatrist. Because she does that. She does that in the books, and it drives them nuts. And she loves it. But the only one out of all of them that really wanted to bolt the second that happened was Captain Boomerang, and it fit his character so perfectly. And like I was saying, I mean, there was that scene with Slipknot where it was directly taken from the comic books. I mean, let's face it, Slipknot was given nothing. We knew he was going to die right away.
Yeah.
He was.
The fact in the trailers you didn't see him.
Yeah, but my point with Captain Boomerang is, while the others just basically resign themselves to their fate, he's running out the door, and I thought that scene was really great. But he kind of rejoins them in the next scene. I think it would have been funny if after he ran out the door, there was like a small snippet of him looking around the street and seeing it just filled with those drones, and then going, oh fuck, and then realizing, yeah, I have to go back to the group because I'm not going to survive. And probably the final scene we'll mention was the scene we touched on earlier in the spoil-free section. Was the Will Smith scene in the alley with Batman, where it kind of gave, to me, it felt like it gave Batman a little more humanity when he's telling Will Smith, who basically is positioned himself in a spot where it's like, you're not going to take me alive. And Batman's just like, oh, come on, dude, I don't want to do this in front of your daughter. And I think that was a really nice contrast between the very, like, killing people with no real just cause Batman that we saw in Batman v Superman. What do you think?
I knew. I knew a scene was like that was going to happen. I knew it was going to be
Yeah.
something with his daughter that was gonna. He was gonna give up. He wasn't gonna do that. The scene was very dramatic. You saw it in Will Smith's face. He acted that very well. That
Yeah.
everything in his body is telling him to fight Batman, and his daughter is telling him no.
Okay, so the next section I got is gripes. Okay, you mentioned some of the problems you had with the movie with the unicorn and Killer Croc's
Croc's yeah.
I'll give them credit for Croc for trying, but honestly, I actually would have preferred this to a CGI Croc. So
Yeah, I still give you that. I like that he was there. They didn't have to look at a blue dot or a green dot floating, but I mean, they could have added. They could have added styrofoam under this costume and made his arms look bigger at least. It's just when he took off that jacket and you saw his scrawny ass arms.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, we both kind of agree on that. And again, I touched on the flashback things. They should have been equal for the characters and organized a bit better because they were a little scatterbrained through a good portion of the movie. But the only other gripe I had, and it's not even a gripe, it's just a criticism that could have made the movie better. Everyone complains about studio ruined the movie, studio interference. The only bit of studio interference I saw was in the credit sequence, the mid-credit sequence. I'm assuming you saw that too, with Bruce Wayne. It seemed needless because they already established that he was looking for these people. He already got the stuff off Alexa's hard drive. He didn't need Amanda Waller's file on Aquaman. I really wanted the mid-credit sequence, and I thought of this right away as I was watching it. I didn't want it to associate it with the rest of the DC, cinematic universe. That's folly. Like, if you want to use Joker as a character later, fine. But they shouldn't try to shoehorn in this Justice League stuff. Now, picture this. This is what the perfect mid-credit sequence would have been. Okay, the last thing we saw was Joker breaking Harley out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you see the empty room that Harley was in. The wall smashed. The cell door cut open. No one's there. All of a sudden, you hear someone coming down the hall. Walks through the broken wall. It's Harley. She goes back into the room, goes into the cell, goes to the table, picks up the espresso machine, turns around, leaves. She negotiated for that espresso machine, damn it, and she was going to take it with her. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that. I wanted a cute little scene where she came back for the espresso machine. I did not want to see some shoehorned in, here's Ben Affleck for a little while. That's my one real gripe about that. That's the only part of the movie that felt very studio heavy. All right, so we went through my stuff. We went through your stuff. Now let's talk about the gripes other people have.
Two things real quick. I had one more gripe. Deadshot's mask. He has it on twice in the movie. Once is a flashback. and one makes
Yeah.
no fucking sense. He puts it on when they're fighting in the building, and he puts it on. Harley calls him a pussy,
Yeah.
and it makes no sense because he says he puts it on when he puts it on, people die, and I mean,
Yeah.
on or off, show him in the flashback of it, and it's just like Thor's fucking helmet.
It
You
made
see him
sense
once
to
with
me
it
a
on,
little
and
bit.
then it's never on again.
The reason why, and unlike Thor's helmet, well, Thor's helmet, they probably would consider that being distracting. Same with Deadshot's mask. He can't convey emotion. He can't convey surprise. He can't convey anything with that mask on. He just looks scary with that mask on. He looks like Jason Voorhees with that mask on. And I think that's why they kept it off for a lot of times. And he used the excuse that he didn't want to kill people like that anymore because he's trying to be the family man. That's what got him in trouble. And that's why Harley turned to him and said, "Pussy, you went for the mask anyway."
To me, it was a waste of
They
time,
kind of
and it
wanted
didn't
to
need to be in.
explain. Well, they wanted to explain why he didn't have a mask from a story perspective, because there would be a lot of people saying, "Why does he not have the mask on? He's Deadshot. He should be wearing the mask." They wanted to give a reason because, and for a film reason, it's to convey emotion. But okay, so here I couldn't fathom why this got such negative reviews. I still can't. So what I ended up doing was I went through a bunch of negative reviews and pieced together the only logical arguments I could find, which were very few and far between. I mean, we had a lot of this movie no good, and good spelled with like a U and then maybe a Y. I mean, like, you have to understand, these people writing these reviews are not adults. Or they are adults, and I'm just afraid for the world. Anyway, so I did find a few, some YouTube videos I watched. I read some reviews. I got some genuine gripes that people had, and I want to answer them and explain them away. Okay. Okay, this is the first one I ever saw, and this is before I saw the movie, right? This is just me knowing about Suicide Squad. This is, one guy says, Superman becomes global threat. Better call man with gun arms and Joker's girlfriend with a baseball bat to stop him. My answer to that is, just because Batman couldn't think of using kryptonite bullets doesn't mean that no one else can. I mean, Amanda Waller can get her hands on some serious shit. She's proven that. And especially considering the fact that the Suicide Squad are off the books. They're a Black Ops team. Like, even if it was illegal to import kryptonite or whatever, she could get her hands on it. It's not like Lex Luthor where she has to secretly steal it. They would give it to her. A baseball bat made of kryptonite, is not beyond her means. I'm just saying. And it's not about being ill-prepared. The Suicide Squad are usually prepared for any threat. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Power Girl at one point, and Harley Quinn blew up a mountain on top of her. It also, almost crushed her friends, too, but Harley didn't care. She was bored. But that's the point. It's not that they're ill-prepared, it's that they're ill-informed half the time. And that I blame on Waller. Waller likes her secrets a bit too much. So that gripe is out the window. I mean, unless you got anything to say about that one.
Waller used the what if Superman came down and ripped off just as an excuse to get the program started. Yeah. These people are never meant to go toe to toe with Superman.
But they could. If she got her hands on kryptonite, they could. And that's the point. They're supposed to deal with global threats on, from Waller's perspective. I mean, let's be honest, her perspective isn't exactly in the world's best benefit. But, yeah, I mean, it was an excuse, but they could if they needed to. Okay, here's one. Joker didn't impact the story and wasn't in the movie enough. All right. Now, I would argue that he did impact the story. Okay, when he stole the helicopter, to save Harley. That was their evac helicopter. If Joker didn't steal that, they would have been gone. That mission would have been over. They would have bugged out and called it even to steal a line from aliens. That totally impacted the story. Not only did it give reason for them why they didn't get an evac, but it also gave reason for why Waller was separated from them and taken. Because the second helicopter could only hold Waller. But aside from that, let's say he didn't impact the story. Let's say everyone's right and no Joker. This isn't a Batman movie. Okay, if you're going in wanting just to see the Joker, you're sorely out of luck. You're sorely out of luck. He's in some scenes, but this is not a Batman movie. This is not a Justice League movie. This is not Joker's Revenge. You know, it's a Suicide Squad movie of which Joker is not a member of. Right? He's only there as a support character for Harley. If she wasn't there, he wouldn't even be there. I just feel that's, if you want a Batman movie, just wait for one. It's coming. Don't criticize this movie because it's not a Batman movie. I just think that was very unfair.
I get people wanting to see more Joker, but to complain that he wasn't in it enough, just like you said, it's not his story. He's not supposed to be in it as much. He's just there to move Harley's character along.
Yeah. Okay, this one I like because this is using the argument against Man of Steel, against Suicide Squad. The problem that the Squad was formed for was of their own creation. And their point is, the problem wouldn't exist if Waller didn't try to put the Squad together and have Enchantress. Now, what they don't understand is Waller's character. That's her. That's her character. It's in her nature to pass the buck of responsibility. I mean, if you look at something else with the Suicide Squad in it, and I'm going to go beyond the comics because, like I said, I mean, she's responsible for a lot of shit in the comics too. But if you look at Assault on Arkham, the entire problem was of her own making. I mean, they went into the Arkham Asylum under a bullshit premise that she needed Riddler's cane. I mean, it was entirely bullshit, but the true nature of their mission was a problem that she created. Now, I just don't want to spoil that because I know you didn't see that, and I'm sure some people didn't see that. Now, let's go with something I can talk about. In Justice League Unlimited, Task Force X, right? That episode where you had Colonel Flag, Deadshot, Boomerang, Plastique, Clock King. They went into Justice League headquarters to steal Ares' indestructible war armor. Mm-hmm. What did she end up doing with it? She gave it to a sorceress who ended up inadvertently allowing the spirit of Felix Faust to possess it and then fuck shit up. Waller created a problem that the Justice League had to solve because of her actions with Task Force X. All these things are of her own creation. So to argue that, well, she created the problem, this isn't Man of Steel. This isn't Superman playing the hero saying, oh, I just saved the world when the problem was his own fault. This was, because if he didn't come to Earth, we wouldn't have been under attack, that whole deal. But that Amanda Waller creates problems. That's kind of what she does. Fixing them, I mean, that varies. So I think that's a fucking stupid excuse for not liking the movie. The movie had pacing issues, and there should have been more scenes like the bar for character development. Now, I didn't think it had pacing issues. I honestly didn't. That's an opinion thing. I felt that the movie had just enough pacing to be believable. The situation they were put in, there wasn't a whole lot of downtime to be had. So I think a scene like the bar was important, where they all talked about, they talked about Diablo's past and everything, and then, Harley told him to own that shit. It was important, but I think additional backstory can help for characterization instead of adding additional slow scenes. I think that goes hand in hand.
I didn't feel that there was any pacing issues. I thought it moved pretty well enough as it's on its own, and there was uh, no slow points. I thought it went pretty smoothly all the way through the movie. There were a lot of little
Yeah.
moments that you saw uh, character development. It wasn't all of them talking at once. Like where Flag kept
Yeah.
saying that Will Smith was going to run off, and he ended up, outdoing everyone, got up on the car, and just opened up a huge can of whoop ass on those fucking dudes.
And then that was right. That was right after he told Harley they're capturing Flag again, and then she just looks at him and says, "Good riddance," and he had to remind her, "If he dies, we die, Harley." I liked that whole thing too. All right, so that was gripes from other people, and those were the only legitimate gripes I could find, and all of them were explainable. I didn't understand. Now, let's move on to Jared Leto gripes. Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but he's spoken out about this movie too, against this movie. Um, Now, I'm gonna try to get the quotes as direct as possible. This might be a little paraphrasing. Were there any of my scenes that didn't get cut? Okay. Again, this isn't a Joker movie. This isn't a Batman movie. He was a support character for an actual squad member. I don't think I need to reiterate that. I mean, he's probably going to be in the movie more in the extended cut, but I think he was in it just enough. Oh, this one. Oh, this is a nice quote right here. If I die, they'll probably surface somewhere. That's good news. That's the good news of a death of an actor, is all this stuff seems to come out. I don't know what you want me to tell you there, bud. Kill yourself? I don't fucking know. I really, common sense says you'll get your chance at another movie. I mean, that's just real. That's idea processing right there. I mean, you're gonna kill yourself over like what 10 minutes that they cut? Uh, um, Also, real classy, trying to bring up like a jab at kind of Heath Ledger. Stay classy there, Jared. That he sounds like a fucking 5-year-old.
I mean, I can see where he's pissed. He filmed all these extra scenes, and I know a lot of them were cut. There's supposed to be a Batman Joker scene in the asylum, and you could just tell a lot of scenes were cut from what was filmed just from the trailers. Fucking give it a few months. It's gonna be on the fucking DVD. People are still
Yeah,
gonna
I
end
know.
up seeing it. I mean, they already fucking love you. What are you crying about?
Okay, so that's Jared Leto's gripes. Now let's go with the actual fans of this movie. The gripe they had. They had one gripe, and there's a petition online because of it. There are people conspiring to give these movies a bad score because they aren't Marvel. I don't think people are conspiring. I'm a fan of this movie, and I'm saying this flat out. I don't think there's any conspiracy going on. Uh, what I think is happening, and this is honesty here. I think what's happening is people are looking at this movie because of the two failures that DC had before, and they're trying to compare this one movie to the entire catalog of Marvel movies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when you compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy, you compare it ostensibly to every other Marvel movie that came before. Uh, I I'm not a big fan of Avengers 2. I thought it was okay. I'm not a big fan of Thor 2, but it's easy to say that those movies are better than Suicide Squad by the sheer fact that they're backed up like by Iron Man. Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers, Thor 2, Incredible Hulk. Like, you're looking at a whole catalog of something versus a movie that's not even supposed to be directly impacting the DC movie universe. And I think people are looking for more than a side story, and they're not finding it. And I think, and Will Smith said it best, and again, you will never hear me say this about Will Smith. I think he was right when he says this movie, I think a lot of people are going to this movie expecting something that it isn't. And Margot Robbie says, well, the same thing. Basically, this was made for fans. And if you're not a fan of the Suicide Squad, then you're probably not going to be a fan of this movie. But you want to go one-on-one with Guardians, fine. But don't compare it to Guardians and ostensibly Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. Now, personally, I think this movie is better than all of them. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare the two because one is, like, a plethora of movies and one is just one movie. And I think that's unfair for people to give it such negative reviews because of that. But, all right. I mean, that's all the gripes that I could find. But honestly, if anyone has a legitimate gripe out there, I would like to know. I would like to know what the problem with this movie was. I mean, if you don't like it, like it's like I tell people, and I feel like I'm going through the same thing with Daredevil again. It's like I tell people, you don't like the movie, that's fine. Just say you don't like the movie, it's not your movie. But don't give it a bad score because you didn't understand the premise or what you were watching. And you know what's worse? You know what's the most criminal thing of all? WB executives are like, they're pulling their collars and saying, well, I hope this breaks even. Meanwhile, you got Sony executives threatening a possible Ghostbusters reboot 2. You have a confirmation, they filmed Fast and the Furious 8. You have a confirmation of Triple X 3. What kind of a world do we live in where I can't get a Suicide Squad sequel because of a bunch of assholes?
Oh, they're pretty much almost finished Fast and Furious 8. They've already filmed Triple X 3. So, I mean, those are already... Ghostbusters Reboot 2 is more than likely not going to happen because it's already $70 million in the hole. To break even, just to break even.
I just want another Suicide Squad.
I just want a good Ghostbusters.
Am I wrong? I just wanted a fucking Suicide Squad, man. Another one. And I'm getting a Harley Quinn movie, which I'm happy about. I love Harley Quinn. The fact that I got like half a dozen statues of Harley Quinn should tell you that, and probably a dozen T-shirts. Speaking of which, Katana is supposed to be in that movie, which I imagine would be great. I imagine that would be a great concept to have Katana in the movie and not actually speak English. They already had something similar with Harley and Power Girl teaming up, where Power Girl's like kind of just putting up with Harley, and Harley's playing like, oh, I'm a superhero, and it's like, you know, come on, it's great. I love that dynamic. But all right, so I think we talked enough about Suicide Squad. What rating would you give it, just out of curiosity?
I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 what?
Pink unicorns.
Pink unicorn. Jai Courtney plushies. Okay, so mine is actually... It's funny because I'm usually the cynic here. You're usually more of the optimist with these movies. 9.5 Marthas out of 10. Because we don't have enough Marthas in the DC universe.
Both Batman and Aquaman's dads are named Thomas.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Why did you say that, Gary?
Aquaman's going to cause trouble on the surface world. And then he's going to pull the same trick that Superman pulled on him, but he's going to pull it on Aquaman, and Aquaman's about to stab him with the trident, and then he's going to freak out and then kill about 20 people in a building somewhere. Oh, man. Oh, all right. Okay, so that's Suicide Squad. That's what we thought of it. I thought it was the best comic book movie ever, and I would give it 10 Marthas. You hear me? 10 Marthas! If they did an extended cut and just added some flashbacks. It's just
a little
cleaned
editing.
it up a little bit with the flashbacks. Just a little bit. Like, not even that much. I fucking love this movie, man. I fucking love this movie.
It's nice to hear you so excited over a movie, because usually it's like, it was, To see you so excited, it warms my heart.
I know, and you probably... I feel like, and I know this is a very trite thing to say, I feel like this was a movie made for me. Like, specifically, I've never felt that way before. Like, holy shit, they made this for me. And apparently everyone else thinks that too, because they hate it. And I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know. But, alright, so, it's, Ancient Angelus and Master Yoma, and this is the Battle Van podcast. Yeah, Master Yoma, talking about best movie fucking ever. All right, I'll see you guys.
I won't.
I'm just gonna sit here and talk for a few minutes while I leave the recording running. Hey, okay. Speaking of my Harley statues, right? So I got really excited about the movie after I saw it. So I go on the WB website, and I go, maybe they got some really cool looking statues or something. So I search for Harley Quinn, because that's my go-to. And did you know that you can pre-order a life-sized Harley Quinn for $2,000 made of foam?
Someone's gonna fuck it.
I was gonna ask you, how many people do you think are gonna fuck it? Like, who pre-ordered it are just gonna fuck it?
I think everyone that's gonna buy it is gonna fuck it.
So I should probably cancel my pre-order then. Hey, I would treat her right. All right, I would bring her on the town and have her dance, and then have Common make some comment, and then have her dance on Common before I shoot him in the face. And then we'd have a good time. And then I'd fuck it.
Battle Van. Return to base.